Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we start our webinar, Member Value in Time of COVID-19, if I can just, well, we have people in the chat box, so we're good there. I think everyone's good on sound. My name is Callie Walker, and I'm on the marketing team at MemberClicks, the leading technology provider of membership management solutions for mission-based organizations. We always strive to provide relevant best practices for membership organizations, which is exactly what we're going to do today. As a reminder, if you're attending for CAE credit, we will send you a certificate following the presentation, and we'll also send a recording to everyone as well. This educational webinar will be 90 minutes in length. As you hopefully saw in our email to you this past Monday, we extended our webinar beyond an hour because we changed the format to make it even more valuable and timely given the challenges that we're all currently facing. But again, if you can't stick around for the full 90 minutes, don't worry, we'll send you a recording. Following the educational portion of the webinar, Erin Hall, MemberClicks' product marketing manager, will provide a 10-minute solution overview designed to show how the solutions we offer are designed to address the challenges that we'll discuss today. This portion is optional and not required for you to receive CAE credit. Now I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping items so you know how to best participate in today's event. If you're having trouble hearing on your computer's audio system, try dialing in by telephone. Simply select Join Audio on the left-hand side of your control panel and follow the dial-in instructions. You will be able to hear today's webinar, but your microphone will be muted. We'll have close to 1,000 audience members joining us today, and so we want to minimize background noise. But that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. Given the amount of content we have to cover today, we will not have a traditional Q&A at the end. Rather, if you have any questions during the presentation, please drop them in the chat box, which you can access in the control panel at the top of your screen. Our panelists will be monitoring that chat box and responding in real time as we go. And last, if you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please let us know in the chat box and someone from our team will help you sort through that. So now for the part you've all been waiting for. We're thrilled to welcome our presenter for today's webinar, Lowell Aplebaum. Lowell is the CEO and strategy catalyst of Vista Cova, a company that partners with organizations on strategic visioning and planning, creating stronger stakeholder connections and reimagining value and engagement. As a certified professional facilitator, Lowell frequently provides dynamic sessions to organizations, getting volunteers, members, and staff involved through experiential learning approaches. He has worked inside associations on membership and value, volunteer leadership, online and in-person communities, among many other topics. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Lowell.
Thanks so much, Callie. Hello, everyone. So this is probably not what this may be what you signed up for, but this wasn't what was originally planned. Originally, this was going to be a 60-minute webinar talking about member engagement, member value. And of course, in this moment in time, it seems that a discussion that just stands on what is the membership recruitment life cycle may be a bit out of place because things aren't normal right now. Yet, what we see is that the very reason why we have associations, right? The heart of what we always pronounce, what we always proclaim, that we are the voice of our industry. We are the professional home for our members, and that we celebrate times together, and through times of struggle, we come together for strength is exactly at this moment what we're seeing in organizations. So if we're going to have a webinar, if we're going to have a session to learn together about what the value is of membership, what better way to learn than from actual practical actions being taken at this moment? And that's what we've brought you today. We have 15 different association executives who are each going to talk to you for 3 to 5 minutes to tell you a little bit of how they have pivoted the actions of their organization to demonstrate the value that they can bring that their members need at this moment, and even some of the feedback they're already hearing because of that pivot. Needless to say, this was a pivot for us, and 15 of these is a lot to do. And so If you don't capture the URLs, don't worry about that. One of the things that we have crafted is a handout that will go with the recording of all the URLs you're going to see. Outside of this slide, there's actually no slides in this presentation. Everyone's going to be working off of a URL that they submitted beforehand. And so that's what you'll see on the screen are websites that you will be able to access yourself, even afterwards, even if you're not live right now. I just want to start and jump in one quick moment by saying just a great deal of gratitude. First to MemberClicks for actually being willing to pivot from a typical webinar format to something that's really off the shelf and different, but feels what's right for this moment. Two, to each of our speakers. These are colleagues, these are professionals, these are friends who stepped forward and said, we have a story we could tell that can help others, and we're willing to make time to tell it. And also thanks to each of you. Needless to say, coordinating 15 different speakers in just a few days, I've done the best to set it all up. I have 2 screens. I have intros on one screen. I have theirs on another. You'll see me looking around a bunch. I appreciate your flexibility in working with a different format. This is where we are, right? Learning can't just be static anymore in one voice for 60 minutes. We're going to hear great stories. Hopefully you're going to get great takeaways. So let's jump in. First, I'd like to welcome to the chat Stefano Bertuzzi. Stefano Bertuzzi, PhD, MPH, is the Chief Executive Officer of the American Society for Microbiology. His URL that we're sharing is on the screen. Stefano, we're so happy to have you with us, and we'd love to hear a little bit about ASM's story.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Looks like the, like the in a movie here, really surreal. Thank you, Lowell, for the invitation. Delighted to be here. I'll jump right in, given the time frame. ASM, the American Society for Microbiology, probably was confronted with a different challenge that most organizations have. One was that of managing the organization in the time of coronavirus, which all of your association probably are dealing with. So how do we add value for the members when we can't hold the meeting? How do we manage, the various initiatives and all that? We were like all of you on that. On top of that, we happen to be the subject matter experts, right, on infections and on microbes, which are causing havoc throughout the world. And so we had a double whammy, if you wish, that we had to deal with. And in this priority, we really put immediately in place a task force in the organization to focus on the science and supporting our members for all that was happening in the world where they needed to serve with their expertise, because they were the subject matter expert there. And another team that was working on the internal organization, the operational stuff. So how do we get the meetings and all the various initiatives running? So that was the first thing that we did. What I gave as a link is a page that we stood up on the novel coronavirus 19 resources. And this is a very comprehensive page. To give you a sense, this page as of today has received over 100,000 separate visits. And for ASM, that for a single page of different visitors, so not repeated from the same individual, is really staggering. It's logarithmically above what we normally get. I'll talk about it in a second, but let me tell you where we added value for our members is first of all, by bringing them all the information needed and the pages. There are multiple pages under this. One is what's happening in the world about it, which you can read also in the newspaper, in many other places, but also what is ASM doing. So that was our main channel to inform our members of ASM actions. So what were ASM actions in this, and what are ASM's action in this crisis? First and foremost, you need to know that we cover essentially 95, 100% of the network of all the lab director, hospital lab directors. So if you ever got your blood drawn in a hospital in the US, most likely the director of that lab is an ASM member. So you can imagine how busy these people were, and most of all with the big crisis of the diagnostics debacle in the beginning. ASM immediately went focused on trying to fix that problem because it was such an important problem from a public health perspective and something that was keeping away literally nonstop our clinical members on that. So we established direct contact with the Vice President of the United States and with the COVID White House task force. We were in constant calls in the Situation Room with them on trying to understand and tell them what we were hearing from our members that were the roadblocks for getting the tests developed. And we have in place already, which has proven of invaluable help, a network called ClinMicroNet. This is a closed network where only lab directors can subscribe, no companies, no outside people, where we could share information and receive information from every single hospital in the country and around the world about what was happening. So we did very rapid surveys, like 2-hour survey on what is the problem right now that you're facing in your hospital. We don't have swabs. We are running out of reagents and the test doesn't work, right? So we collected all this, and as I said, we brought, not at this level of detail, but once we understood what the underlying causes were, to the White House, and then to the federal agencies, in particularly the FDA. And ASM, I have to say with great pride, was responsible for having FDA change substantially the regulatory process for this. That really was the key thing that allowed now for the ramping up of all the testing in the country. So that was great. We held a summit on the science side on Monday, brought together all the top researchers in SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, and we had this digital summit where we what is the state of knowledge for the virus and what can ASM do, asking the expert, what do you think ASM should be doing? And out of that, for ASM is about to stand up in real time. We hope to get it up in a week or two, a sort of a research knowledge, status of research knowledge on COVID-19 webpage, where leaders, Nobel laureate virologists will, and others will actually select and present what is the most significant research happening so that we facilitate the communication among our scientists, basic scientist member of what is going on. There would be much more to say, but given the time, I'll stop here. And you asked also Lowell to comment about the reaction that our members had on this. In one word is, it's almost embarrassing to report. It's been extremely positive. They love what ASM did. There's always more they say that we should be doing, but the comments were on the line, like heroes don't wear capes, just to give you a sense of how that there was a real sense of making an impact for saving lives that the organization has done and helping them do their job. That was really important. And so it went really well, and it's just been exhausting. You know, I think myself and my staff probably have slept 2 hours since this, since this happened. So we have the staff really on 24/7 because this has been, as you can imagine, nonstop. So I'll stop here.
Stefano, thank you so much. And I posted, again, all the links. There'll be in a resource sent after, but I'll also send out on the chat box, I'll try the link that we're looking at the same time. And thank you, Stefano. That was great. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Next up, we're going to hear from Diana Mertz, CAE. Diana is the Senior Director of Councils and Member Engagement at the American Staffing Association. Her page is up here. Diana. There we go. I'm
here and ready to go.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning for those on the West Coast. Good to be with you here today. I was listening to Stefano, and I'm like, the power of associations right there. What an amazing story. I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing at ASA and who our members are. I think that's an important background to why we pivoted and what we're doing here. So our members are staffing firms, companies that put people to work in a variety of arrangements. Could be temporary, temp to hire, direct hire, long-term contract positions, you name it. We put people to work, simply said. but a variety of workforce solutions. As a result, our members are really placing people on all jobs, all roles that you can imagine. So our firms that are placing healthcare professionals right now are completely overwhelmed by healthcare systems that are being asked to ramp up to deal with employee burnout, nurses, physicians, medical assistants, and so forth to address COVID. Our requests for industrial firms, those people that are placing food production specialists, for example, those are ramping up. The requests there, all of you are eating at home, everyone's buying food in larger capacities than they have before, and we need to be able to keep up with demand. So our industrial firms are seeing a lot there. Our IT firms, many of them place talent virtually already, so there's not a huge change for them, they're just doing more of it. And then we have firms that are really struggling, to be candid. They're really struggling because their clients have shut their doors, their jobs are not available to be done virtually, and so they're trying to find talent and put talent to work in different positions. I just tell you that because I think it shows the breadth of how our industry right now is servicing different companies based on where we are with the coronavirus. So to service our industry, we created this microsite that you can see Lowell has up on the screen. And this is available for members and non-members. We are very fortunate that we have 4 lawyers on our staff who have been tracking legislation around the clock. As things like the legislation that you've seen around paid sick leave and unemployment, our members are employers. And this is really, really, it could be detrimental to our members at this time with what's happening, especially as a lot of our members are small businesses. We've held 2 webinars to educate our members where we've also tapped the expertise of outside counsel. And then once this legislation that's being debated right now, maybe today passing, we'll be holding another webinar. Additionally, Lowell, if you scroll down that page, you can see we've got a number of articles, but we also have some FAQ documents, and we also have valuable links to other areas, other helpful resources. But we drafted some FAQ documents with outside counsel. Our members have questions like, when we're interviewing people to put them on assignment, are we allowed to ask them anything about their exposure risks? There's HIPAA compliance, but have they been anywhere where they may have been around someone with coronavirus? They have questions about that because they're putting people to work. So we have FAQ documents that we have drafted there. Additionally, we also have a model contract language. This is contract, we've always had a model contract, but we've updated it now to help our members that are placing people on virtual assignments that maybe have never placed people virtually before. All of these resources we've also been communicating with our affiliated chapters. Our affiliated chapters have their own membership, but we really believe that it's critical for us to work in collaboration with our chapters to get this out for the good of the industry, especially since all of our benefits and resources that we're churning out are for non-members. Lastly, well, actually not lastly, a few other things we've done. Our online community has really been hopping with discussions related to this. I think I could say confidently through yesterday, I think 100% of our posts were related to COVID. Now I would say 95%, we've got a few other topics, but we're using the tag functionality on our online community to tag all these posts, and we'll be putting their own navigation item on the menu there to help point people to what they're looking for right away. We are taking our spring conferences virtually this year. We've made that decision. These were regionally focused conferences, but what we've seen is that all of our chapters have canceled their annual conferences that are held in the spring, and there are no industry conferences happening right now. So we're pivoting because we think that there's a real value for us to provide professional development and networking in a virtual capacity, just to make sure that we're offering learning to our industry at this critical time. Also, we've, just in terms of member engagement and committee work, we've paused our committee work for now. March is a very busy month for us, for our committees. I have about 20 that my team supports, and it's really not top of mind to our members. They're trying to adjust to their new world of work, how they're putting people to work and their client demands. It's a little tone deaf for us to continue on with business as usual, since as Lowell said at the beginning, this isn't usual. Instead, we're launching new sector networking calls and CEO peer group calls for the next 8 weeks to allow people to connect with each other on how they're running their businesses in the current landscape. And one thing, Lowell wanted to say, make sure that we, close the loop here on this, but all of these resources are open for both members and non-members, but we've seen new member applications come in this week. And the reason that they're joining is they're citing it's our COVID resources, which were free to non-members, but they see the value of them and know that we've got other valuable benefits as from what they've seen just here. And then the last one I wanted to point out, Lowell, if you want to navigate to the next tab, is we have partnered with the Retail Industry Leaders Association, the Association for Retail Companies, many of which are closed due to COVID. So their workforce is displaced right now, and our staffing firms can help put these people back to work in the high demand roles, specifically, food production, manufacturing, where we're seeing still an uptick there. But how can we get people that are displaced from work, that are unemployed, and put them back to work utilizing staffing firms? So we just launched this yesterday with them. Ryla did an announcement. We did an announcement on a press release, and we've gotten a lot of interest from our members who are excited to help put people back to work through the opportunities they're seeing. And then a bonus to the membership team is we have been bombarded with members wanting to make sure that their contact information is up to date. So there's a win there that we get member profile updates. So that's what we've been up to.
That's great. Thank you so much, Diana. And there was a question or two asked in the chat box. I'll let you answer over there. Thank you so much for your presentation. Russ, you're next up, sir. So Russ Webb, there we go. Russ Webb is the executive director of the Bay Area Apartment Association, and he represents, and I'm quoting what he put in, I'm not saying this is personal attestation, representing the most beautiful part of Florida.
That is a fact, Lowell. Thank you for pulling this together for everyone. I do represent the most beautiful part of Florida. My members house about 500,000 Floridians. For us, the interesting pivot has been, we are a people-facing business, and we're all of a sudden being forced to not face people. And for a people-facing business to be put in that situation, pretty interesting for us. So we've done, the most important things for us has been to be able to provide the resources that our members need, because as all associations, advocate, educate, communicate. And on the advocacy side, there's so much happening right now, not just on a national level, but on a state and a local level, that we're having to keep up with it all. So our government affairs team is working really hard at that. So one of the things that we're making sure that we're doing is what you see in the lower left-hand side of the screen there. We're having this update pop-up box happen every time someone visits our website. What's happening right now with us is that municipalities are changing what they're doing as far as shelter in place. Some of them call it safer at home. There's a lot of different opportunities. And for us, our members have to take this information and then pass it out to all of their residents who live at the various apartment communities. Like I said, about 500,000 Floridians that we're having to deal with there. We're holding town halls. The town halls we're holding some for our property management executives. We're holding some for people who work on site. We're holding some just for the maintenance teams, so that they understand what it is that they're dealing with. We want to right now be that resource for them. A huge part of what apartment associations are supposed to do and what we're used to doing is we're also a very social group. Our members love to come together. We hold a lot of education classes. We do a lot of networking events. And right now, it's very difficult for us to be able to provide that. And a lot of apartment communities that, because of they do shelter so many residents, that what they're having to be able to do is make sure that they're protected and they're protecting their residents and their employees. So what they're doing is most of the leasing offices at the various communities are still working, but they're not allowed any forward-facing contact. So during that time, they're looking for things to do. So we decided that one of the most important things for us to do was to be able to partner with an organization. Well, if you go to that second tab. So the Apartment Association of Greater Orlando is the neighboring association that touches our association there. You can give that acknowledge, thank you. So what we decided to do was take advantage of this to be able to have these online discussions. We're calling them online engagement. We're trying to avoid the term webinar if we can, because webinar to me sounds like go sit in front of your computer and be bored to death for a while. So we're actually calling them online engagement. And we're making it a point that only some of them are dealing with COVID. We want the people who are out there who have all this time to be able, who are sitting right now in their home offices or sitting in a leasing office, to be able to engage. So what we're doing is we are taking topics that are important for our industry, things like delegation, things like social media, And we are doing the town halls, but we're also doing how to build relationships. We're doing things to talk about customer service. And we're partnering with our friends over at Lowell. If you can click into any of those classes if they're live, and you'll see that we're partnering with our neighbors there. And what we're trying to do is to be able to have that engagement series, is what we're calling it, and they're free. Webinars are 100% free to all of our members. And the signups have been fairly outstanding. And we expected we would get some engagement, but nothing like we did. We have got one tomorrow coming up here. It's this one right here, The Art of Delegation. And between our two organizations, we're sitting over 150 seats that are signed up right now. And we've also made a point of offering seats at these free to other organizations across the state of Florida who may not have the resources for that. They might have a staff of one or a staff of 1.5 or maybe 2. We've made a point of offering these out for them too. Reached out and talked to our partners across the nation to see if they're willing to offer some of their expertise as well on providing these webinars, and that's very important for us. So in addition, like we said, the education thing is super important for us, but these town halls, the ability for them to share that information with their peers is so important, and segmenting them out will allow us to do that. Someone asked me, are our engagement series all on Zoom? Yes, we are, 100% using Zoom. We have the Zoom webinar license, as well as we're doing Zoom meetings for ones that are smaller, for more close together meeting groups. Google Duo is also a pretty amazing tool to be able to use as platform agnostic. One of the great things about Zoom is that Zoom, yes, can be used anywhere, but for someone doing it on a mobile device, sometimes it can be a little bit tougher, whereas Google Duo is a good opportunity for some of the things that we're doing as well. So again, I know we got a lot of stuff to go through with a lot of people, so I don't want to take up too much time. But for me, it's all about the power of partnership and looking at our partners next door and realizing that we were much stronger together than we were apart. So if there's any questions, I'll answer them down in the chat.
Thanks so much, Web. Thanks so much, Russ. I really appreciate it. All right, next up, I'd like to welcome to the screen. There we go. I'd like to welcome to the screen Dot Miller, CAE, who owns The Solution, an association management company. Right now, busier than ever, creatively and virtually engaging members and growing membership for her clients. And she's here to talk about at least one, if not two of them.
Thank you so much, Lowell. Welcome, everybody. We're excited. Is it not the most exciting time right now to be an association professional or a chamber professional? It is busy and it is amazing, and it's time for you to be a great leader, and I know that you can do it. Thanks for pulling all of this together. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of two of our clients. First, we're going to talk about the Association of Colorado Chambers of Commerce. And with that, I want to use an example here of a website, the Arvada Chamber of Commerce in Colorado. So one of the things that our members are doing, and we're encouraging our members to do, is to reach out and make sure that our industry has the tools and resources to be successful right now. So a lot of people have been sent home in various parts of the country. That may give them a little bit of downtime to do meetings, committee meetings, engage on different levels, participate in a task force, and we're doing those meetings virtually with GoToMeeting, Zoom meeting, several different platforms that have already been discussed today. But we're also providing our members with the resources that they need to look at those options if they don't use them in their business. So what I wanted to take a look at here with the Arvada Chamber website, again, this is free to members, but you can see that they've got a COVID webinar series, virtual experiences, and if you scroll down a little bit, hopefully this one didn't take place yesterday because I thought this was really important to show you guys. Let's keep scrolling. There's one that's called e-commerce. It looks like it already took place. I'm sorry, guys. But what we're teaching some of our members to do is how to do e-commerce if it's a retail facility that wasn't doing that before. If you've got shops, downtown shops, or restaurants that weren't ordering online before, we have those opportunities to teach them how to do it. Yep, that's exactly what I was looking for right there. So it's really important right now to make sure that we are continuing some sort of normalcy with our members and engaging in, obviously, weekly all-in calls, where all hands calls, people can participate if they want. They don't have to, but we're all offering up a speaker for the first 15 minutes and then a Q&A for the rest. What's going on right now? how can we help you? What can we do best to make sure that you're successful? We also are providing panels of experts right now. People are looking for information. We don't want to just send out emails with any sort of noise at all. We want to make sure that all of the resources are on our clients' websites, but that we're also engaging members with an opportunity to see face-to-face and hear from experts in the industry. We are reading, like you would not believe, the stimulus package. We are reading all of the different orders that are coming out, stay-at-home orders and things like that, so that as soon as we get a call, we have the answers. We also have created a team of people that we've got on speed dial, including congressmen and governors, that we can say, what is going on right now? Does this lawn care company, are they a critical business? We're just not sure. So we have engaged a lot of members through our chambers of commerce. We have partnered with a PR firm that's getting out to their media relationships so that we are elevating our industry in the news as well. Reporters are looking for stories right now, and they're looking for stories from your members. So if you create those media partners, you're going to be the go-to resource for your members. We're also submitting press releases that go out to media across the country so that we can elevate our industry as well. The other thing that we're doing, I want to switch over a little bit to the American Association of Code Enforcement Officers, one of our national clients. We issued a recommendation early on, the second week of March, that said, we highly recommend that our code officers are not doing interior inspections from March 16th to April 7th. That statement that we put out with the reasons why was issued nationwide. And those code officers shared that with their city managers and their city councils, who shared it with other code officers in other cities and other managers and other elected officials. And we had 10 new members that afternoon, just bam, just like that. So being a leader in your industry, making the recommendations, knowing and understanding the rules and the laws as best you can, and being able to refer to the experts and having that information and engaging your members virtually like this, that is exactly what's creating our engagement right now, increasing our memberships across the board, across every client. You guys are rock stars, and I know you're going to do a great job.
Thanks so much, Dot. Appreciate both the examples and the positivity. Certainly welcome. Next, I'd like to welcome Julia Boyd, CAE. She's the Director of Certification for the Professional Photographers of America.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be with y'all today, and thanks to MemberClicks and Lowell, as we lovingly call him in Georgia, for setting this up. So I'm with Professional Photographers of America, or PPA. We're an association that serves professional photographers, and we have just over 30,000 members, both nationally and internationally. Obviously, we've been hit really hard, as our members completely are in, somewhat of the service industry. They're all small business owners and work with people not 6 feet apart normally. And so they're navigating this world of cancellations and events, and we're just trying to help them out, as we all are trying to help our members out. So last week we just dove right in and established this website, ppa.com/inittogether. We wanted a place where our members could just come and get all the information that they needed. And so we wanted it to be very clean and kind of section it off. So you can see we have our news and updates. That's going to, entail any articles that we've written. It has a letter from our CEO on there, any of the legislation that comes down, kind of helping them to just have direct links to that. And then that government assistance tab, which we are constantly updating. And in that, it actually details by section what the stimulus package is going to do for our members. So they actually can download a PDF depending on what kind of small business structure that they have. In that PDF, we have different outlines of who can use this, what this benefit does for that individual, how can they apply for it, and additional info about that section of the stimulus bill. Also, we do a fair amount of work in DC, so we're working with some of our DC contacts to do a direct-to-member webinar to help them navigate this when all the stimulus package is kind of sorted out, so that they can know how to apply and know how that they're going to get some of that money to help them transition into the latter months. We also, of course, have an education section, as we have a captive audience at home. And we kind of decided to just go, straight in with a contracts and cancellations webinar that was very well attended. We have about 1,200 sign up for that. And we also had our CEO jump on. That was the first webinar that we did. We had our CEO jump on and just talk to our members to just say, hey, we're here for you. This is, we know we're in this together. And at any time you can come to us and we're going to, try to help you navigate the situation. Also, other webinars, we're doing a lot of Facebook Lives, how to protect your brand emerging from this national emergency, Facebook Live, In It Together, and of course, navigating unfamiliar territory. And then the other thing we do, I think Lowell just clicked over to the next page, we decided to completely open up our education platform. So we have about 1,000+ online videos and webinars that we house. They're normally a member-only benefit, but we decided to go ahead and open this up to anyone. As I said, we have a captive audience at home. Why not kind of leverage that? And so in the past week, we've had 40,000 new accounts that have been made. So all you have to do to access the platform is create that free account. You can see it on the screen, and you have access to our platform. So we've had 40,000 new accounts. Only 5,000 are spam. We have been filtering. And so that's been amazing. We hope to kind of leverage that as we move past this, and hopefully some of those free accounts will transition into full memberships. And then also, I just got some new stats. We've had 90,000 video plays in the past week, 19,000 yesterday, up from a normal level of about 500. So we're very pleased with, people partaking in our education. We've also seen a trend in our international free accounts that have been made. So, we're happy to kind of, grow our brand equity internationally as well. We've also been working with some of our educators to help them create curriculums for their students that they might be teaching right now online. The last thing that I'm going to briefly touch on is just using that power of social media. We've used our Instagram account a lot, and we just did, one of those questions, and it just said, what message would you like to send to your fellow photographers right now? So we've just had members engaging in that, typing in messages, sharing photos. We're all in this together, and it's just kind of how we can help each other. We're using the hashtag In It Together. Some of the feedback that we've gotten once we opened up the education platform was, OMG, exclamation point, this is everything. You just created a member for life. And then amazing as always, so proud to be a PTA member. So we're going to continue most likely to keep our platform open through the end of April. And then, of course, it'll go back to a member-only benefit. But, right now, I think it's just important to help educate those professional photographers while they are at home to kind of build their craft and their business acumen.
Thank you. Julie, you got a question or two to answer in the chat.
All righty. I will certainly do that.
I love that we're in this together rather than just putting COVID on the screen again.
For sure.
All right, next, thank you so much, Julia. I'd like to welcome Nicholas Oliver. Nicholas, MPA CAE, is the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Partnership for Home Care.
Well, good afternoon from the divine city of Providence, Rhode Island. Isn't that what our members are looking for right now? Divine providence. They're seeking preservation of their environment, cooperation for everything happening right now, and a guide through their current climate. And that's what we're doing with the Rhode Island Partnership for Home Care. Our members are the companies that deliver personal care attendant, home health, home infusion, palliative care, and hospice services in the home. Our members are the companies, but our primary contacts are administrators of these respective agencies. The supermajority of them are actually not national companies or hospital-based. They're independent proprietors, the true mom and pops of America, just looking to do good in their local community and providing care for their most vulnerable populations. We provide care to the full womb to tomb experience, as I say, from prenatal care, children and adults with disabilities, all the way to elders and at end of life. Unlike other facility-based settings, we provide care in the most intimate and also the least controllable healthcare setting, people's individual private homes. So when the federal government starts talking about flattening the curve, our issue is that we have the highest risk to spike community spread because we're traveling our workforce from home to home, about 7,800 professionals and paraprofessionals serving over 20,000 Rhode Islanders in about 20,000 homes. The problem that we've experienced with the federal and state governments is that there's a vacuum of information. The focus has been on hospital care, and since the issue in Seattle where there was a spike of deaths in the skilled nursing facilities or nursing homes, the real focus has been on those cases in nursing homes and how to prevent those, but nothing to do with home-based care. So what we have done is that we have worked with the National Association, in which we are members of, the National Association for Home Care and Hospice. And depending on your dialect, you either call them NAC or NOC. We call them NOC here in the Northeast. And they have this repository of information for our providers to be able to access as far as what are updates from the federal government, what information that they need to provide to their staff. Since in a normal environment, they are out in the community, they don't necessarily report into the offices. So how do we enhance that virtual communication in a time where our workforce is nervous to be able to go out there and deliver care, knowing that they may not be flattening the curve, but that they may be spiking the curve, or that they're impaired to go out to provide care because of school and child care closures, and looking for information as to how to access services for their families in order to be able to continue to go to work. On the local level, because we are such a small state, geographically, if you drive more than 45 minutes, you will cross into Massachusetts, into Connecticut, both of whom have shelter-in-place orders, so you'll likely get tagged in the border. Or if you travel south, you're likely in the drink in the Atlantic Ocean halfway to Long Island Sound. So we're really small in geography, which allows us to be able to get together on a normal basis. My provider administrators like to be physically together. I look at them as cooperative competitors. So for this type of environment where we can't get together in person, we have to move toward virtual meetings. I can tell you it is driving them batty. But like I said, they're looking for divine providence. So we have tried to be the calm in the storm and provide them the information that they need or that they aren't able to get access to. So we provide them, and this is really down and dirty what we do. It's nothing terribly formal, but I provided Lowell with a sample of one of our call sheets that we provide immediately following a 7:30 a.m. call Eastern, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that has information that we've been able to gather over the previous couple of days, such as reminders of member alerts and advisories, upcoming calls, whether they're from the CDC, the U.S. Centers for Disease Prevention and Control, or the NIH calls, or even our State Department of Health calls, as well as webinars and calls that are sponsored either through NOC or the partnership, information that impacts their workforce, such as additional closures and restrictions, requests that are made to our industry from the federal government that they may have been lost in their emails that we want to make sure that they all respond to, requests that they have made. It was mentioned earlier with another healthcare provider earlier in the call about personal protective equipment or PPE needs. Certainly we have needs for N95 masks, paper masks, gloves, Tyvek suits. And the other that, because again, we provide care in the home, is cleaning products. That has been a big trouble for us. We, more than any other provider group, need to have access to Clorox wipes and Purell and that sort of thing. Any outstanding questions that our providers have, we try to answer. We also, because there's a lot of complaints and concerns about what happens post-pandemic, we have our parking lot for things to address, such as funding issues because of declines in revenue, or how we would respond in a post-mortem pandemic response review. We provide any updates that are specific to the organization, such as conferences like everybody else's that are being moved, postponed, or canceled. And then we allow for some time for member feedback and Q&As that we will respond to at the next teleconference that we do. And then I always wrap up with a kudos to members, giving those shout outs or gold stars to our members that provide samples of letters that they can use as travel documents if they get pulled over by law enforcement for traveling when there is that travel ban in place in our state. Or being able to say, hey, I was able to capture N95 masks from my provider They sent me 1,000. I only need 100. Can others come and pick those up, or can the partnership help distribute that? So we give our gold stars out on the phone too. And it's something that has really tried to elevate morale in a time where everything feels like doom and gloom.
Excellent. Well, Nicholas, first, just thank you first and foremost for your members being on the front lines and for everything that you and your organization is doing to support them. All of us are certainly the beneficiaries of that, so thank you. I'd like to invite Sharon Kneebone, CAE-IOM, who's the Executive Director of the National Society of Histotechnology, to join us and to share a little bit about what they are doing.
Hi, Lowell. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate at NSH. So I thought it was very appropriate that we started the call with the American Society for Microbiology. They are the opposite side of the shop from histotechnology, where we're dealing with tissue. So we are not as impacted in terms of what we're processing other than bronchial tissue specimens. What's happening is we're seeing that the quantity of specimens coming in has dropped. So that said, what we've got up in front of you is actually our blog post. And it's to talk a little bit about the impact of the virus on histotechnology. And one of the first things that we did was we put a technical paper together immediately, and that is to how to disinfect in a histopathology lab. We've made that completely open from the start. And the Journal of Histotechnology is not a big journal. We're probably 256 pages annually over 4 different issues. And we have, I checked right before we got on the call, we were approaching 26,000 views, which is, for us, that's unprecedented. How we got the word out is we had a letter go out to all of our members as well as our customers, because NSH is primarily education. Only 10% of our income comes from membership dues. So we sent out a letter from our president to all of our members as well as our customers, letting them know what we're doing, letting them know that we are canceling one of our in-person seminars and moving the second one into November, and putting this link to this blog post up front. What we're doing now is the next thing that we did actually is we reached out to our members through our private online community, Higher Logic, to ask for some feedback on what problems are you experiencing in the lab so that we can put together a customized microsite of resources. We didn't get a lot of input on that, so our manager of member services, Cindy Simpson, sent out a bunch of personal notes, and that was extremely helpful and effective because it created a human face for the National Society for Histotechnology to let them know that we are here for them. So we've got the blog post, we've got social sharing going on because we've posted the link to the technical notes and other people are sharing that. And what we're getting ready, actually one of my colleagues is in the process right now, is putting together our microsite where we will lead with that particular link. But then our publisher, Taylor and Francis, has made available all of their research related to COVID-19. So we're going to be sharing that so that our members, whether they're in research, whether they are in a hospital setting or a reference lab setting like Quest or LabCorp, they can have quick and easy access to that. And then we're going to make some education. We've identified 5 webinars which are relevant to what histotechnologists are dealing with right now and make those available. But then also just to remind our members, we have resources available in our private online community, and we're going to make those available. We are gearing up to prepare our board to do their fiduciary responsibility. We've gone through all the different scenarios. We are actually in a very good position because we are in a cash-rich position right now, which is great. So if another dollar comes in, we're in good place until June to serve our members. Our membership is up in March because of what we're doing and making things available. We are going to proceed with our annual meeting in October, but what we're going to be recommending is that we add a virtual streaming component to that so that people who can't make it, and then I'm looking at the budget right now and hoping to make available $10, $500 travel grants, because the room rates are so low in Reno. If we can cover their airfare, they could be able to get there. So we're watching this on a day-to-day basis, and this microsite is going to be added to as we find what the needs are and as more resources need to be made available for histotechnologists. Unfortunately, what they're seeing is that their workflow has gone down to half or less. And one of the pieces that our members are needing is, how do I close up a lab? And some hospitals are in the process of closing down. So we thought we would be somewhat bulletproof, and that's just not the case, because all of the elective surgeries are stopping. And by elective surgeries, we don't mean having plastic surgery done. We're talking about maybe some dermapathology where you have a spot on your skin that doesn't look too good but is not life-threatening. So that has been canceled and postponed. So we are also going to be finally, going back to this blog post, we are going to be working with our partners on a virtual Hill Day. Workforce shortages are our #1 problem right now. So we are advocating to get some federal aid for education so that we do not have enough people in seats to replace the people who are retiring. So we're going to be doing some virtual Hill Days because we had to cancel ours. But again, things are going well. Membership is definitely up, and we're going to look to see what more we can make available free of charge or significantly reduced.
I love that, Sharon. And your take on your conference this fall about being a hybrid offering is something I'm hearing more and more in the field as well. I think there's maybe a question or two in the chat box for you. Thank you so much.
I will take a look. Thanks.
Next, I'd like to welcome Kelly Turner, CAE. She is the Executive Director of the Michigan Potato Industry Commission and Potato Growers of Michigan Incorporated. Kelly.
Thanks, Lowell. I appreciate being here today. We may be different than some of the others you've heard from. We're pretty small. We like to lovingly refer to ourselves as Michigan Potatoes. We have a dual role, one to educate the public about how great potatoes are for you nutritionally, and also to keep the growers of potatoes updated with all the information, research, and education that they need to grow potatoes. So as you can imagine, talking to our growers and packers over the last couple of weeks, they are completely overwhelmed, undersupplied with employees as well. One person explained to me, like, this is as if we rolled every large holiday into one day, is the volume demand that they're seeing right now. So they are really working hard to, a lot of them have gone to 24/7 operations to try to keep grocery store shelves stocked with the potatoes that they have in storage. So with that being said, we definitely changed completely our method of communication with cutting out things like they don't really want to hear about an upcoming event. Nobody wants us to ask them to be a sponsor of anything right now. So we really pivoted and changed our communications so that we're gathering data and specific information for them that directly impacts their business. You know, how do they apply for permits for changing truck weight restrictions? How do they, what do they need to do if someone in their supply line comes down with the virus? How do they keep the food supply safe? And what do they need to follow? I've heard a lot of people say that they really appreciate those timely, in-demand information because they don't have time right now to try to go find it on all these different websites. What Lowell has for you right there are some examples of the communications that we've changed that are outward facing. So you heard me say that we talk to consumers normally about, you know, the health benefits and nutritional benefits of potatoes. Nobody cares about that right now. They just want to know that they can get potatoes. And so we have kind of changed what we do, and we're sharing the stories of how our members are contributing to helping people get through the pandemic. So there's a story about how one distiller who uses the starch from potatoes normally to make vodka, they completely switched their operation around, and now they're making hand sanitizer and distributing that. We've got potato producers who are giving away potatoes because they just don't have enough people to pack them all, and they know people need to get potatoes now. So instead of, you know, taking the time to put them in those nice bags you see in the grocery stores. They're taking truckloads of potatoes to places and letting people come and get them as they need them. This is really a nice way for us to kind of pat our members on the back. We can lift them up. We can show them off to people, to their customers specifically. So us communicating directly with our members' customers has garnered a lot of support. So there are members who wouldn't answer a phone call, wouldn't attend an event, who are calling us and getting a hold of us saying, hey, I want to help. What can we do to add to helping people get through this pandemic? Because we're all in it together. So those are some of the things that we're doing that's maybe a little bit different than what others are doing.
That's perfect. What's clear is that no matter the size of the association, the impact they're having is meaningful. So thank you so much, Kelly. I'd like to invite Jay Karen to join us. Jay Karen, CAE, is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Golf Course Owners Association. Jay?
Thanks, Lowell. I'm going to frame my 4 minutes with explaining what NGCOA has been doing for our industry and our members, and close it with just a quick thoughts on what I've been learning as an association executive. So we represent about 4,000 golf courses in the United States, and while golf can seem a little trivial with the backdrop of what's happening, we represent the business side. So thousands of courses, 2 million jobs, and we're an $84 billion economy. So 2 weeks ago today, actually, my largest members reached out to me and started texting me with great fears because restaurants started closing. So they thought, well, when will it be golf courses? And they're not thinking of like, oh, just the dollars. We want to keep dollars coming in. They're thinking of their staff all of a sudden. Now, are they going to be able to stay employed? What's happening? And we have an organization in the golf industry, that brings together all the major national golf organizations. So, because we have an alphabet soup of associations in the golf industry, we come together under one construct, and it's called We Are Golf. But at the time, 2 weeks ago, they were not responding very quickly to what was happening, the rising changes. And so we kind of took matters into our own hands and organized leading a phone call and conference calls with all of the national association CEOs, from the PGA Tour Commissioner to the USGA, et cetera. Because perhaps as business owners that we represent, we were feeling the fears of all of it, from our employees to what's going to happen, the safety and everything. So, at the time, we kind of quickly took stock of our leadership values for an emergency response. And it really was 3 things for us. 1 is do something. 2 was to be inclusive. And 3 was that speed is more important than perfection right now, because we were trying to keep up with the pace of change, which was happening every hour. So that was kind of driving us and our team. And so we decided to step out among the golf associations and do something and organize everybody. So, and we also decided we have to work the problem. Back in the Apollo 13 quote, right? What is the problem? Let's work the problem. And those 3 things for us were a fear that federal legislation that would come out and support economic relief, which everyone started talking about 10 or 11 days ago or 2 weeks ago, was going to leave our industry out, because there was a history of the golf industry being left out of federal stimulus, disaster relief legislation. So that was very important. 2 was that governors around the country were closing down businesses. Obviously, they were saying we were shutting down businesses, and our industry felt golf was different. That yes, shut down the clubhouses like you might shut down a restaurant, but we have 200 acres of open field. As long as the parks stay open, perhaps the golf courses should stay open, and we can basically implement certain practices. So, and the 3rd was develop resources for the members, because we knew they were going to come clamoring for, please help me. What do I need to know? Give me something. So first thing, among all the associations, that we had to establish that we're on the same page about keeping golf courses open, which is not easy right now, because there are medical fears, economic fears, emotional fears. And we kind of had to craft language and we had conflicting messages, but we kind of crafted that together. We had to mobilize national and local organizations all across the country, provide talking points and resources, centralize data and information, and stay in touch with everybody. All of that is not very easy in a matter of days, right? So what we did, and I know Lowell's showing our website, this is NGCOA's COVID-19 kind of center. We built our entire website around the Higher Logic tool. So, and it's really, really responsive and fast for our team to get in there and make changes, which is pretty wonderful. Plug to Higher Logic on that. So we decided to have content categories here. As you can see, we've got information on workplace and HR for our business owners, state level rulings in there as far as, what are the governors saying, what are the executive orders on closing down, what is clear about golf, what's not clear about golf, and so forth. We also have marketing resources on there because this is going to be downtime for folks. And we know that the companies that focus on marketing during an economic downturn are among the first to kind of revive when the economy improves. So what could you be communicating with your customers right now if you actually have to close down? And we also have what we call our Park and Play program. And this was a checklist that we developed on how to operate a safe and socially distant golf experience for any golf course owner. And by the way, this is available to all of our members and non-members, what you see here today. So we put it out there for everybody. And we got the checklist approved by physicians from the Infectious Diseases Society of America, so that we weren't just saying, hey, this is what we think you should do to clean up. Thank you, ASAE, because through ASAE, I met Chris Buskey, who runs the Infectious Diseases Society of America. We could quickly get a response and got a physician to kind of bless our checklist, which we put out there into the universe, which has quickly become the standard out there in the industry, talked about and forwarded and so forth. And the idea on Park and Play was that a golfer should be able to drive up to the parking lot, park their car, walk up to the first tee, play a golf experience, get all the way around to 18 holes, get back to the parking lot and go home in a safe environment. So that's really what this is about. What you see on the page there on the right side is a window into our, what we call Accelerate. ASA calls it Collaborate. It's the window into the member discussions. And that's the only thing that is right now locked down to members. But we decided to surface the discussion so everybody can see the discussions. One, yes, as maybe a teaser to join the organization, because we normally hide this behind the member. You never see this kind of stuff. You never see what a member is saying about anything if you're not a member. But we thought this is so important. Let's let folks have a window into the discussions. We're now trying to figure out how do we unlock our Higher Logic community platform to all the non-members out there to be able to access. As you can imagine, some of our team are worried about, how crazy that's going to get with unlocking that. Do we call it a free membership for 30 days? Do we just give them access to Accelerate for 30 days? How do we do this and not break the system and break protocols? And so much is cascading because of that one little decision. So right now it's still under member only. So that's what we've put out there for the non-members and members, and we've been really, really responsive to all of the incoming requests as best as we can. But we're going to add a card up there to the site really soon, probably today, that will be economic relief information, because as you can imagine, we're filtering the federal legislation on any particular provisions that deal with our businesses and our industry, our businesses and people. So we're going to cherry pick that out and give our interpretation, just like ASA just did recently. They came out with a great resource on how the federal legislation is impacting associations. So I'll close out with this, because what I'm learning and what I'm processing as an association executive. One is I'm reminded of that Rahm Emanuel quote from 2008 when the economic crisis was happening, is never let a good crisis go to waste. Now that seems opportunistic and cynical right now. People are kind of bastardizing that phrase a little bit, but what he meant and what he said at the time was, don't let it go to waste. We need to learn from this so this never happens again. Well, pandemics will happen again. The question is, what can we learn as associations from our response to this? Two is that language is incredibly important. We had to find ways to support members who wanted to stay open, but at the same time, not shame those members who decided to close on their own. Thinking, did I make the wrong decision here? Am I laying off my staff when I don't need to have to do that? So that's, language is really important. I also am learning, this is where associations get to win in the information age. When, we've heard forever that members can find information anywhere, so why do they need associations? We are better than a search engine because we're curating for relevancy so much better than they could, and we're advocating. Google doesn't advocate for our members, right? And lastly, this is teaching us as a staff what we are capable of, not only in general, but how much we can produce and how much we can do when we are singular in focus. Is going to precipitate some very interesting discussions after all this is over about how we can get more singular and focused as an association, because my entire team, it's all about this right now. And what we're producing, the pace and the quality is amazing. And so I'm really going to be thinking about this as the CEO, to figure out how do we strip away anything that is non-essential after we get back to business as normal. So Lowell, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for having me join the call.
That's great. Thanks, Jay. You got a number of questions in the chat box to take a look at. Really appreciate you sharing.
You got it.
I'd like to invite Sue Bowman, CAE, to come. She's the Senior and Director of Marketing Communications for COSIN, the Consortium for School Networking. Sue.
Thanks, Lowell. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, let me just tell you a little bit about COSIN. COSIN is a membership organization, but a hybrid one. So our membership are actually school districts, K-12 school districts. So our members are, generally speaking, the CTO of that school district, or the Chief Innovation Officer. So you can imagine right now that they are on the front lines. So just a little bit about timing. Our annual meeting was going to start in Washington, D.C. last Monday. On the 1st of March, we switched to a new AMS. Our board members are pretty much can't talk to us right now. So timing is everything. I mean, good news is our force majeure will probably be able to be kicked in, but bad news is we have a lot of moving pieces right now. So what we did was to make the decision about communication is we need to meet people where they are. They don't have time for us. We need to get them the resources that they need, but we need to do that in a thoughtful way. We're very content heavy as an organization, which is great for me as a marketing person, but we really had to isolate our message so that we focused on their need for information about how to implement e-learning. So they're working on it from the side of some of those folks have people on their staff who are moms and dads working from home with small children. So we really had to walk away from doing much of anything in the 9-to-5 setting and gone very much to nights and weekend communications. So the first big decision was to take the annual meeting virtual. So we just basically bagged it. We did do one session, which was surprisingly well attended. It was like a self-care motivation speech, and we had over 300 people attend live, and we've had more than 2,000 people listen to the recording. So that was kind of unexpected, but her name is Amber Case, and she talks about technology from the human side. So it was really kind of weird and very zen, but it worked really well. We also did our Hill Day in partnership with ISTE, which is the Society for Technical Educators. It was actually more successful virtually than it would have been in person, because we were able to touch base with a variety of Hill staffers, and they had time to talk to us. So again, really, it was a different kind of Hill Day, and I will tell you, I didn't do it, but it was a nightmare to coordinate. But really, it went off really well. So we've stopped any extraneous emails. We do have another decision we had to make, because we're K-12, is that how much of this can be member only, and how much of this do we have to do for the greater good? And I say that it was a real heart-wrenching decision, especially for our membership director. But what we have done is gone member only for a short period of time, and then we have gone to providing it to the general public. So we're giving access to this information for like 72 hours, 96 hours to our members, and then we're putting it out publicly, and that has been extraordinarily well received. We've created 2 resources, which you can see there. They're very specific. One of the things that I think we take a little bit for granted is that there are a lot of districts out here who had no plan for this, 0 plan. And our districts range from districts like Miami schools to East Syracuse, New York, okay? I can pretty much tell you East Syracuse, New York did not have a plan. So we have to meet them where they are. We have to tell them, in some instances, especially the rural districts, how do you take this step by step? How do you roll out a one-to-one device plan? Where can you get money? It's just so complicated, and as a country and a society, we are so ill prepared. So what we will be doing between now and our conference is hosting what we're calling CTO conversations. much like this, no slides. They will be topically based. And we're just gonna do them randomly, just do, the events. We're not gonna market the heck out of them, doing social media and doing it all via Zoom. So it's gonna be, come talk to our subject matter expert on digital equity. She'll be available from this time to this time on this day. And then we're also kind of rebranding as a BYOB kind of a opportunity in the evening. So that's what we're up to, Lowell, and everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Lowell, I believe you were muted there.
You're muted, but that's fine. I can introduce myself. I'll do it alone. I am Genevieve Borello, CAE. I'm the Senior Manager of Member Engagement at the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. So we go by ACTFL. ACTFL is an individual dues association of about 12,000 members who represent all spheres of learning and teaching languages. So we have textbook designers, curriculum designers, departments of ed, and more importantly, we have actual educators themselves. So sort of as Sue was saying, as you can imagine, the last couple of weeks have turned our members' lives around. Distance learning is something that can take years to learn and years to perfect, and all of a sudden, these educators are being thrown into it for the first time. So we've done a few things. So first up, we opened up our publications library, and they are now accessible on our website without a login. You just go to our website. They're available there. They are also available through our magazine app. It does require a membership login, but they are free on the website. All of our publications are language and level neutral, so they can apply to any teacher teaching any language and sort of walk them step by step through different areas. We've also made 8 of our online learning modules free. Those are behind a login wall, but it's free to create a login. These learning modules come with certificates of completion, which teachers can use for certification and recertification. And we're also slowly releasing bite-sized webinars, about 10 to 20 minutes, about how to teach online, since we assumed a lot of people are overwhelmed and longer webinars would be a little too much. And third, and most importantly, is we are offering a basic level, our lowest level of membership, to anyone who is not a current member or a previous member. So we've had about 900 applications come in since Friday night. So we probably could have done it better. It's a little bit overwhelming. Our membership staff is 2 of us. It's me and 1 other person. So 900 applications has been a little insane, but it's also been really inspiring. So about 50% of the applications we processed so far were people who weren't even in our database. We didn't even know who they were. They just came out of the woods, which is really great. Let's see what else. We've also auto-extended all of our current memberships by about 3 months automatically, so they don't have to do anything as sort of a thank you to them. And then we also created a dedicated community space for our educators through that Higher Logic platform to share resources. People are going in and sharing lesson plans, rubrics, assessments, since the community really was thrown into this and a lot of people just have no idea even where to start. So it's been a really wild experience so far, but really great. We think that it's been great so far, and we hope that if you have children yourself that are learning languages, we hope that you can sort of see the fruits of our efforts from this.
Thank you, Genevieve. You have a question or two about your membership recruitment efforts in the chat box. Really appreciate you sharing. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Chad Rummel, CAE. He became the Executive Director of the Council for Exceptional Children on January 1st. So, happy less than 3 months on the job, sir, and welcome.
Thank you. For some reason, my camera is not functioning right this second, so you can listen to me while I figure that out. As Lowell said, my job started here on January 1, and just a little background to help you understand what I'm going to be talking about. CEC has had 14 years of declining membership, and I'm talking about going from 60,000 to 20,000 in 14 years. And so when I joined the organization on January 1, the board charged me with A, bringing the community back together, and B, finding a way to disrupt CEC. Well, luckily for me, COVID took care of that disruption. Being special education teachers, which is what our community is, they are obligated by law to deliver the same services they were delivering when schools were open. get any waiver or exception from that. So maybe they were dealing with an autistic student in their classroom before school closed. They're required by law to deliver the exact same service, even if they can't get near that student. So we're in a special sort of disruption trying to help them. But we knew when this started, it was our chance to A, support our community like everyone else has been sharing, but B, as the leader of the organization, I saw this as kind of a chance for us to rethink about our brand and to potentially put ourselves in a better position post-COVID. So my job as the quote unquote architect of our response has been to really put a pin in where I want us to be when COVID is over, so that all of our work is gearing us in that direction. We've done work in 4 different areas that I'll share. Number one, we really upped our game in the area of communication through this. We have almost a daily email going out either from me, our president, or a video. Like today we have a video from students going out to our members, trying to put a positive message in their mailboxes every single day. I know when this is over, I want them to have gone through it, been successful, but I also want them to think positively about CEC, and that starts with communication and feeling. So when I started my tenure here, I thought I coined the phrase, we're in this together, but apparently everyone's jumping on that now. But that's still our message we're using. And we're getting a lot of response to that. People writing back saying, this is what I needed today. That's all, just wanted you to know that. So that's been very positive. Number 2, like all of you, we're also jumping on the resource bandwagon, creating as many things as we can. Within the first school closure being announced, we had launched a webinar within 48 hours about moving special education online. That webinar alone has gotten over 40,000 views. And so we're very proud of that. We're at the point now where we have 7 or 8 more webinars lined up in the next couple of days and micro-learning modules. The Department of Education is now reaching out to us to be a part of our webinars because they see us as a way to get their message out. And to me, that says we're doing the right thing in terms of our brand by building faith back in what we stand for if the Department of Ed is reaching out to us. We've also, in the area of resources, we've been reaching out to our mission-based partners and our corporate partners to engage them in helping us get the word out. They have distribution channels we don't have, and that's led to a lot of positive response. We're talking over 1,000 times the website traffic we had a week before all this started because we're using our partners to get our messaging out right now. And as I mentioned, we're doing micro-learning right now. Our PD team is focused strictly on creating micro-learning modules that are coming in as questions. We're getting the responses and creating those modules right now for our members. The third thing we've been focusing on is finding ways to connect members. I knew that our staff didn't have the capacity to really charge up our communities, which have been getting maybe 5 posts a week. So we asked our key volunteers to ignite conversation in our communities. And in doing so, we had over 200 posts alone this morning in our communities, which for us, again, going from 5 a week to 200 in a morning is very positive. And like many of you, we've also been using social media as a way to connect our members and asking them to share their resources there publicly with the whole world under the hashtag of We Keep Teaching. And finally, the most important thing we've done is we've opened up our resources. We didn't just flip the switch and make everything available. We created a free membership that's effective through the end of the school year so that everyone has the ability to get behind our firewall. And as soon as we did that, my goal was, what if we got 1,000 people to join? Wouldn't that be cool? And we could keep some of them maybe. So we immediately started a team of ours working on an onboarding campaign specifically for this group. I'm overwhelmed and excited to say that in 6 days, we now have 14,000 people who have taken advantage of the free offer. So we've gone from 20,000 to 34,000 members, and that onboarding campaign is even getting more work and love right now. What's also been amazing about this, as somebody who's charged with thinking about what I want us to be post-COVID, is that we're getting positive feedback that this is the right thing, not just in those 14,000 members, but a big chunk of those 14,000 members are people that have actually not used our free membership, who are actually coming back and joining. This has been an accidental win-back campaign because all of a sudden we were putting ourselves out there as the brand they used to love. And so we're getting a huge number of win-backs signing on. We're also getting people who are hearing about us for the first time and joining, again, not even using the promotional code, but they want access to what we have, what they didn't know we had prior to this. And probably the most important thing for me in terms of measuring the success of our pivot, and by the way, congrats to everyone that had pivot on their bingo board today. It's the word of the day. The most telling thing about this pivot for us is that I've been reaching out to our current and long-term members. We have a special group we call our pioneers, who are people who have been in the association for 15 years. And I've been reaching out to some of them to ask them, how is CEC doing with this? And they're telling us that we're doing exactly what CEC used to do back in its heyday of 60,000 members. During this webinar today, I just got an email from a past president I want to share. He says, Chad, I feel more pride in my CEC membership than I ever have, including the year I was president. And so for me, Lowell, you asked us to think about how do we assess our progress in this. For me, making sure that lapsed members, new members, and current members are all on board with what we're doing shows that that pin where I placed us to be post-COVID is actually working, using the things we're doing so far. So with that, I will relinquish my time.
Thank you, Chad. Amazing, amazing story, and amazing work that you're doing. Thank you so much on behalf of all our families. I'd like to invite Sandra Jardy, CAE, the Executive Director of the California Landscape Contractors Association, to share with us some of what they're doing.
Thank you. It's great to be here. For us at the California Landscape Contractors Association, a lot of our work was based in trying to keep our community calm. And let me explain. There's an old saying that all politics is local, and where California goes, so goes the nation. And we've been living that out in real time. On the 16th of March, we had 6 Bay Area counties issue their own versions of the stay-in-place orders that we now see go all the way nationwide. The challenge that we had was immediately, we didn't see our industry called out as being essential to health and safety, which we are. For those of you who don't understand, California Landscape Contractors, we are the general contractor of the landscape outdoor industry. We build retaining walls. We do irrigation. If our members do their job right, not only does your outdoor environment look beautiful, but we make sure that we're not wasting our precious water resources. We make sure that elements like backflows function correctly, because when they don't, they can literally contaminate an entire neighborhood's water system. So it's a little more than the nicer things we do of mowing, mulching, and planting flowers. Our first piece was to educate our members as to what these orders meant and what they could do, because within about 16 to 24 hours, we saw other California counties wanting to get into the game, as well as cities. To put that into a perspective, that meant that we had over 538 local jurisdictions that could potentially put in place their own versions with their own clauses as to who could function and who couldn't. And members who were thirsty and were scared. Because in our state, if you are cited, and each of these orders does have an enforcement component, it's a misdemeanor, it's a $1,000 fine. Some jurisdictions were enforcing that as $1,000 per worker that was out on a job site that wasn't deemed essential. For our members, that could bring down their entire companies, because many of them are small business owners, mom and pops, 10 employees or less. So what we started doing immediately via our social media and our website was interpreting what we were finding. There was no way with a small staff of 7 individuals that we were going to be able to monitor 538 local jurisdictions for any changes. So what we did, and a big shout out to Beth Z, your nerdy best friend, I had gotten an email from her, the usual one that she sends out, that talked about how you could quickly design PowerPoint slides and turn them into recordings and movies. And that's what we did. Instead of monitoring these local jurisdictions, we created a 20-minute educational video that walked through the basic tenets that we saw that were standard in most of the stay-in-place orders that were enforced at the recording time, and then gave members instructions on what they needed to do in their local communities, what websites they needed to visit, who they may need to talk to get clarification as to whether they could send their crew out and under what conditions, what they should be talking to their crew members about, making sure they wanted to work and that they had the essential safety resources and professional protective equipment that our people use in their daily job. And then finally, we used as an opportunity at the end of that video to remind our members about member benefits that were critical to them in this time. Most of our members, being small businesses, they don't have access to an attorney at all times or an HR professional to interpret what's happening. we reminded them that we provide those services through our providers as part of their member benefits. What made it really confusing is when our governor issued a statewide order, and we then had jurisdictions within our communities that had 3 orders in place: the governor's order, their county order, and their city order. There's been a ton of confusion. So the next thing that we did is we made sure to go ahead and get them as much information they could so they could make decisions of if and should they be working and doing what projects. We gave them a sample letter that you see up on the screen that they could use and give to each of their workers should they have work that is deemed essential and fits what the governor's guidance documents were telling us. We gave them information and links to communications that we got through other state offices about how they advised we should be interpreting this. We activated our advocacy platform. So we not only had members, but non-members, especially because of our social media outreach, reaching out to their legislators and their governor and their county supervisors to try to get the clarity that we were also striving for. And then finally, what we did is we went and got a legal opinion from our legal counsel as to how the governor's order could be interpreted, what he felt was essential job tasks that they could be doing without being cited. And again, for our members, if you're cited, not only do you have a fine and a possible misdemeanor to deal with, but in our state, you can lose your license to practice your trade entirely, which is much more catastrophic than shutting down operations for a week or 2. The best thing that we did is 90% of all of this information we gave out to the community for free. Didn't matter if you were a member or not. But because we wanted to also reinforce member value, the big nugget, which was that legal counsel letter, that is behind our paywall. We did make things easier for our members. If you were a member, you got the tidy packet, all put together in a nice PDF for you, including the legal letter. If you were a non-member, you got all of those resources minus the legal opinion, but you had to print them out. You had to put it together. That was something our leadership decided they really wanted to do. And a couple closing thoughts is this. Number one, we're only as strong as our community, not only all of us together today, but we have our own listserv in our community of people who do my kind of job in the green industry, both those that grow plants, as well as those that are landscape contractors and gardeners. That network nationwide has been invaluable because what we experienced last week is now rolling out in states this week. Furthermore, our leadership has been fantastic. Our staff has pivoted as well. On our heaviest day, some of us started work at 6 a.m. and we didn't finish till 3 a.m. the next day. And then finally, for us, trying to keep our sense of humor has been critical. I have Stanley, the squeezy skull. He has gotten a hell of a workout in these last couple of weeks. And again, we're not trying to have the perfect be the enemy of the good. This is all fluid. This is all shifting under our feet. And you're going to make some missteps. We came out with a very strong guidance message last Friday, and our members let us know. Some of them were like, this is really strong, and others like, oh my God, this is way too much. But the one thing that we've consistently heard from our supplier members, non-members, our social media participants, as well as our long-term members, is thank you so much. You are the only resource we could go to get clarity, to get pieces that were immediately relevant and curated so that we could do our jobs. We're going to have to continue to monitor this, all of us. We're going to continue to pivot with our messaging. But the one piece that we have is our community has a renewed sense of purpose and pride. And I think that's going to be our silver lining.
That's great, Sandra. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite Stephanie Reeves, CAE, the Executive Director of the Maryland Psychological Association.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. MPA is a small staff association. We represent psychologists in the state of Maryland. We're not a chapter of the American Psychological Association, and I bring that up for an activity I'll talk about in a little bit. So just like everyone else, we pivoted fairly quickly with this. We actually had come off of a meeting with some of our state psych association EDs on COVID and how we're going to deal with it. And we immediately, once that meeting was over, transitioned. We created this page and started populating some of the information we already had in place that was behind the member wall. So for example, we have a professional practice toolkit for psychologists on everything from HIPAA compliant platforms to informed consent agreements. We put that in front of the firewall. And from that, it sort of just grew hair. So we decided to pull together a webinar, and initially thought we were just going to do this as a member benefit, but realized that this information was coming fast and furious. There was really no one area where it's going to come from. So we decided that that was going to be, we could be that one resource for all psychologists in Maryland, regardless of whether they were members. And so we opened up that platform. And I mean, it encouraged us to actually, we have a Zoom account like everybody else. It was limited. We actually invested to get that platform open, which we did because we were limited at 100. And then we opened it up and we had about almost 200 attendees for that webinar, which provided really great content on the basis of starting a telehealth practice, because that's where a lot of our members had to shift immediately. As you've heard on this webinar today, a lot of people literally had to change the way they did business on a dime, and our members are included in that. And we are talking about members who range from those who already engaged in telehealth and nothing changed, to members that I had that didn't even own a computer. So being able to provide that webinar and that type of content proved to be hugely successful for our folks. And we recorded it, made it available again on this webpage for anyone to access, and received a lot of great feedback from members and non-members who said, you know, I was looking for this information, couldn't find it anywhere, but you have all of this here. And as we've gone on, I'm actually very fortunate to have a consultant on my staff who is really well-versed in local insurance policies. And so he has contacts with the insurance companies and other areas, and has pulled together an almost daily update for our members on everything from what local insurance companies will pay with telehealth to Medicare, Maryland Medicaid. And this has sort of been the one-stop shop for folks if they want to know if their insurance company will pay for telehealth in certain instances, how will Medicare handle it, how will Medicaid handle it. And I also have our legal counsel who answers members' questions to address concerns about how do they practice when, you know, these things are happening, because each state has their own licensure law as far as psychology goes. One of the things that we're finding challenging now, which we've pivoted to the advocacy piece, is states around Maryland. For those who are not familiar, you know, you have DC, you have Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, so forth and so on. A lot of the jurisdictions around our state have issued waivers so that if you are a psychologist and you are seeing a student in Pennsylvania, but they live in Maryland, you can continue, you know, it's the can I continue care. Maryland right now is the only state in our little mid-Atlantic region that hasn't shifted. And so now we have moved to the advocacy piece of not only working with the Maryland Insurance Administration, but also Governor Hogan's office, and trying to encourage the opening up of waivers and such, because, you know, right now what we're seeing are people potentially falling through the cracks, and we know that utilization of mental health services is going to increase 2-3-fold over the next few months as we go through this situation. I think with everyone else, we've also utilized our social media channels. We've actually had members who have been interviewed on everything from, for those of us in the DC area, the Kojo Namdi show on WAMU. We've had members interviewed for the Wall Street Journal on how to help the public manage various issues, whether it's your kids at home all day to how to handle grief in this time. And we've put that all on our social media channels. The next phase is to put it all together on the website, and just providing our public with resources and opportunities to find that. What we have found helpful is, when we've done the advocacy piece, is utilizing the American Psychological Association as a partner. The state associations are working together with them to not only share resources, but to also do some of this advocacy work on the state and federal level. So the APA has been a wonderful partner in all of this. And what we have found that has been really great for us is that in the last week, we've had 4 new members. And one of those members is a former member who had moved out of the state, but had moved back and hadn't considered joining again. And when she had called to join the organization, she mentioned to me, and I quote, "You guys were providing such great content. I felt guilty about taking advantage of it and not having a membership." And so this was without any push. We haven't done any type of membership push or whatever. Whenever we've sent information to our non-members, the only thing we have said is that there is a members only listserv. That's all we have said. But that has been enough of a motivating factor for people to want to join the organization. So just like all the other groups you have heard from today, having that information available to those who are not members have basically proven that in these times of crisis, we have been, it's not just about our members, it's really about that community around us. And we have to look beyond that to really help everyone through this time. And, we know that we're not going to probably gain every non-member as a member of MPA, but we have established ourselves and we have shown that what we're providing is a valuable content, and the fact that we have it all in one place for people to find whenever they need it has been an asset. One last word in terms of our continuing education, we've been really fortunate in that we have started doing a lot more live streaming of our in-person, and so when March hit, we just easily pivoted from having an in-person virtual to all virtual. And it just so happens that we have a workshop tomorrow, which we planned a year ago, on depression in children and young adults. And again, without any additional promotion for that, the registration for those have gone up, because as you can see, and as you have shown, obviously you have a lot of kids who are home and a lot of parents just trying to figure things out. And for psychologists, how to help them manage in this particular new era that we're in has been critical. And so we've seen registrations go up. And so in terms of that pivot, having had the foresight of starting the live streaming piece a couple of years ago has paid dividends, because it meant that there was only one conference we had to cancel, which was already small, so it wasn't a big hit for us. But going forward, if we find that we do need to pivot for May and June, we're already established to just be able to flip everyone to the virtual piece and keep it moving. So thank you very much, Lowell, for this opportunity. And good luck to everyone. We're all in this together.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Really appreciate the story and everything that you're doing. I know that we've run a little over. We have one last example we wanted to share today. I appreciate those that have been able to stick around. And again, we'll have the recording after. Chris Beeman, CAE, is the Director of Advancement and Communications for Kappa Delta Pi. It's the International Honor Society in Education. KDP is an individual membership association for pre-service and beginning teachers. Chris, what would you have to tell us?
Thanks, Lowell. I normally am an extremely winded person, and I promise to keep this brief. I think where KDP steps in, we're uniquely positioned, which I'll explain in just a minute. As Lowell mentioned, we're made up of 700 active chapters on campuses, colleges of education around the country, around 40,000 members, most of whom are either preparing to become teachers or who are already educators in the classroom. So as you can imagine, the announcement of school closures and moving to virtual models completely uprooted our members' lives. Most educators go into it for much more than the work, if you will, associated, but it's that human connection. They weren't ready for it professionally in terms of moving classrooms virtually, many of them, but most of all, and one thing that I will share today is that our teachers are missing their students. Like many organizations, ACTFL has shared, and they're doing a wonderful job, and the CEC has shared. We are providing resources. The link that Lowell has sent out is sort of our compilation. We're often a curator for our members. Our capacity for communications has been a little bit lower, but we have sent this URL out 3 separate occasions, all with more than 1,000 clicks, which is smaller than some numbers you've heard, but we are a smaller organization. So, and we've had around 8,000 unique clicks on the website. So the first email that we sent out was just this link and what we called a virtual hug to our members saying, we're here with you, please let us know what you need. The second were resources, including 2 live virtual panels that we are getting live actually right now on that website. And the third was the opening up of all of our resources on demand. The click rates and open rates of those messages have been phenomenal. We've posted those on social media, but something, the campaign or the message, the appeal, if you will, that's resonating the most is as a Greek organization and honor society, you know, there's a lot of symbolism in our messaging and our rituals. And a bee actually symbolizing toil for educators is a part of our seal, our traditional seal. So we've encouraged members to post a bee on their window. And we have never in the history of the organization on social media seen so many shares and replies with photos. We've seen around a 300% increase in engagement on social media as a result, which is, you know, sort of, you know, again, to some of the conversations about positioning our brand and so forth, it's really informing where we're heading. And a lot of individuals we're finding are a part of the organization due to the community and sort of the emotion, the sense of the connection to the history of the organization and the power of teachers. As I've mentioned, the website, of course, is getting a lot of hits and the email responses are great. Our email responses have changed from, you know, why am I getting this? Or, you know, unsubscribe me, etc., to thank you so much. This is wonderful. I was able to use this in my classroom, or this helped me prepare. And they're actually sending along, interestingly enough, purple and green hearts, which, you know, emoji hearts, which are KDP's colors, again, with the symbolism there. The final thing I'll mention is that our chapter leaders, I shared we have 700 active chapters, have been sent a myriad of resources on how to move meetings, initiations and inductions, etc., online. And we've opened up, as others have mentioned, our online platforms to non-members during this time. So that's all I have to share. And I, you know, just want to thank MemberClicks and Lowell for putting this on.
Thank you. 2 quick things, Chris. I love that you have on here, one of the resources is the Zoom facilitation playbook, which may be for an online classroom environment, but I bet that the application there is something we could all learn from. You have a question in the chat box I'll let you answer about virtual hugs. But I'll close by saying this to everyone. You know, in this together seems to be a theme throughout all the messages we heard today. And certainly, though I know this went a bit longer than we anticipated, I think that what you heard is a theme that not only are we in this together with our members, but we're in this together with each other as well. It's a time that's scary. It's a time that's a lot of trial and tribulation going on, and everyone's connected to, in some way, someone that's being impacted. And the stronger we're able to be together, hopefully the stronger we'll be able to get through this and come out the other side of it as well. One of the important parts, of course, is that as everything has gone virtual, is having, you know, digital resources and knowledge. And so I want to close just by saying thank you, of course, to all of the speakers, and not close this yet, because as part of course, the acknowledgement and thanks for MemberClicks is their investment as a digital partner in our community. At least I know they have some things to share with us as well.
Thank you, Lowell, and thank you to all of our participants in today's discussion. That was enormously valuable, and this is a topic on all of our minds. The more we can help each other navigate through this, the better. So this concludes the educational portion of the webinar. I really appreciate everyone sticking around. I know that ran a little bit over, But like I mentioned earlier, we'll now have Erin Hall, MemberClicks's product marketing manager, share a few solutions that can help associations and chambers during this challenging time. So Erin, I'll hand it over to you.
Allie, thank you. And guys, superb job to Lowell and our panelists today. I cannot believe the amount of just innovation, responsiveness, and nimbleness that we've seen through some of the solutions and sharing that we've heard today. And as we talked about in the beginning of our time together, the spirit of the webinar changed really dramatically from what it looked like originally. And as we know, during times like this, pivoting toward relevancy is clearly very important to the people that we serve: members, customers, stakeholders, industry partners, etc. I will now give you a moment to, if you're playing the drinking game, take a drink of your beverage, because I said pivoting, or if you're playing bingo, blot your pivoting box. Something that Dot said earlier really resonated with me. These times provide opportunities for associations and their staffs to thrive. This is honestly why we are all in this industry and why we are built for success for this industry. This is the moment where we get to do what we do best, and that's make a difference. I see and I hear that thread through so many of the efforts presented today, and it's clear how important it is for us as member-based organizations to provide support to help our industry members survive through unexpected challenges, and in this case, it's distance right now. We are here, MemberClicks is here for you as a partner to help navigate those challenges in the coming weeks, the coming months, and whatever might happen after that. And during these days especially, I just have to share that our collective MemberClicks heart is just bursting with empathy for you all, the association and chamber communities. And for those of you who don't know me, I come from the association world. I spent almost a decade as an association executive before coming to MemberClicks, and I place myself every day, but these days especially, in your seats with the challenges and the opportunities, quite frankly, that you have today. And I know that I can speak confidently on behalf of my coworkers that we all are feeling that. We're all trying to put ourselves in your position so that we can understand how our refreshing technology can, help make your tough days a little bit easier. So really quick, when it comes to boosting member engagement is something, and member value, that we talked about a lot today, especially in this current climate. You want to do a couple of really important things. You want to automate your manual processes so you can devote more time to taking care of your members. You want to provide just exemplary, out of this world, responsive service to your members so they do recognize that value of your organization, both in times of crisis and in times where the waters are much smoother. And also you need to have an easy way to communicate with your members, as we heard a lot of today, and maybe even more importantly, be that bridge that connects your members so that they can communicate with one another when timely interactions are of the utmost importance. So when it comes to those goals, MemberClicks has two specific solutions that tackle those. One is Oasis, which is our professional association management software technology. And the other one is called Atlas, and that one is a perfect management platform for trade associations and chambers. So we are happy to share more information about those two solutions should you need them. I want to bring more focus, however, on something that is just a gigantic priority and need for many associations and chambers right now. And that is to meet the member demand for online content, certification courses, and webinars, or Russ Webb, I think it's online engagements is the preferred term, which I love. So thank you for introducing that. We do have at MemberClicks a learning management software. It's called MCLMS. It integrates with both of our AMS solutions, and it's built specifically for those virtual learning and event needs that we all have these days. And I know I've talked to several of the panelists today, and maybe even some of you in our attendee audience recently about, having toyed with in recent years with developing online content delivery and engagement, but perhaps it never felt like the right time to implement it. Maybe it wasn't in the budget, or other strategic priorities were above something like that. But now we're all being thrust into an environment where online events and content are a must-have, not a nice-to-have. So as you guys face these things, we just want to let you know that MemberClicks is here to make that transition as painless and maybe even rewarding and pleasant as possible for you, for your organization, and of course for your members. And one day, I'm an optimist, so I'm hoping it's soon, as we return back to whatever normalcy might look like. MemberClicks will still be here for you as a steadfast partner, providing what you need to thrive. So that can be resources, best practices, and of course, solutions, technology solutions, such as a job board, member benefits management, peer review software, conference management, and more. So until then, we're honored to help you shoulder that burden in this new world. And we'll be sending follow-up correspondence after today's webinar so that you'll have all of the info that you need in order to get in touch with us. We really appreciate your time today and your attention and your contributions. Again, thank you to Lowell and our panelists. I'm going to pass this back off to Callie for closing remarks. Thank you guys so much for coming today. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Erin. And thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us on today's webinar. When you exit the webinar, a quick 7-question survey will pop up. We'd really appreciate your thoughts on today's webinar and how we can improve future webinars like it. We want to make them as useful to you as we can, especially during this time. To thank you for taking a minute or two to provide us with your feedback, we'd like to enter those who respond to the survey into a drawing for a $100 Amazon gift card. We'll notify the winner early next week via the email address that you provide us. We will also share with you our winner in an email that we'll be sending you next week, including a recording of today's webinar. Also, be on the lookout for our next webinar as part of this series. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Bye.